Perhaps you have heard of a town quite close by, where the people and houses were as grey as the sky. So quiet and gloomy was this little town that any noise made was met with a frown. As I was saying, the town was so glum that no one could even think to have fun. Yet up on the hill at the end of Main Street lived a young girl named Pepper you'd be happy to meet. She was smiley, she was freckly, she had bright red pigtails that looked very much like two sunburnt snails. She loved cherries, raspberries and cookies homemade, but the thing she loved most of all, was her pink lemonade. This treat in a glass, fairy floss in a cup, there was only one problem, it made her. And one day, Pepper was proud of the cookies she'd made. Only one thing was missing, her pink lemonade. Gulping it down like a fish dying of thirst, she slurped it all up till she felt fit to burst. And then something very peculiar happened. She hicked and she hupped, and then with a start, the greatest hick yet, and out jumped her heart. It bounced from the table, the chair to the floor, and before Pepper could blink, it was out through the door. Without her red fluffy heart quickly beating inside her, Pepper felt awfully lonely, like a web with no spider. Her eyes were downcast, sadness shrouded her head. Her shoulders drooped forwards, her feet were like lead. And slowly, so slowly, feet dragging she did start, the melancholy long journey in search of her heart. Meanwhile, down the path on the hill, the heart leapt with glee. It had so much to do now it was free. And into the town the heart went on its way, a bright flash of red surrounded by grey. Yet as it passed by, up overhead, pale white flowers transformed into red. Chalk on the pavement, once boring and grey, turned pink and the hopscotch was ready to play. Laughter broke through the silence, then someone said hi. To their neighbour they met, staring at the blue sky. Down the main street the heart bounced up and down, until it arrived in the centre of town. And there in the plaza it encountered a mime, who really was having a most terrible time. For while on most mimes the sadness is just painted on, this one was truly depressed and forlorn. So sadly he watched the heart as it bounced right on by, yet when it jumped in his lunchbox, sending it into the sky, he sprang to life and leaping around, tried to stop everything from hitting the ground. Fluidly moving without even struggling, the mime found himself successfully juggling. But while the mime was finally enjoying his life, poor little Pepper was filled up with strife. She walked past the colour without even a glance, just walked slowly onwards as if in a trance. And finally she found herself in the centre of town, and miserably lonely she sat herself down, and numbly stared at a juggler impressing the crowd. But then she saw what he juggled, and she uttered aloud, "My heart!" Losing his balance, the mime fell over at once. The heart hit the ground, and then with a bounce, it leapt up to Pepper, right into her lap. She smiled again, she was finally intact. But as her colour grew, a red glow in her cheek, from the mime in the plaza, it started to leak. With her heart in her hands, Pepper knew what to do. There was without doubt enough of her heart for two. So the mime and young Pepper decided to share that heart big enough for the pair. And from that day onwards, in the colourful square, famous for its juggler extraordinaire, Pepper and the mime would sit side by side, the heart in between them, bursting with pride. And there you could see them, what a couple they made, with their red fluffy heart, drinking pink lemonade.